Meanwhile, we are learning more details about the $13 billion settlement that PG&E reached with attorneys of wildfire victims.
And it's not a done deal. It has to go through a lot more steps to be finished, but we do want to help you understand what this all is.
The deal is meant to pay victims of wildfires caused by PG&E, stretching from 2015 to last year, including the Camp Fire, which killed 85 people. The deal would set up a trust fund to pay for things like wrongful death, pain and suffering, and other losses that were not covered by homeowners' insurance. ABC 10's Brandon Riddiman is here now to make us smarter about where this deal fits into the bigger crisis with PG&E.
Yeah, so I got a great question about this after our morning meeting today, which is why is PG&E's stock up when they're announcing that they're going to have to pay out more than $10 billion to all these fire victims? And the answer is because this is good for PG&E. PG&E is at risk of going out of business, and what we have here are victims of these wildfires joining PG&E's plan to get itself out of bankruptcy. And when I've talked to the lawyers for these fire victims, they say they've done that because they see their very best chance of getting these people paid as keeping PG&E in business to make sure that there's money that keeps flowing. So let's break down the details of the deal itself. We've got a nice handy chart here. It is half in cash, $6.75 billion, half in stock, $6.75 billion. There's an asterisk there because the devil's in the details on the stock. That will be the value of it when it gets paid to these people, but stocks, as you know, go up and down. So this would be stock in the new PG&E Corporation. The idea is they would blow up the holding company it's got now and then give new shares to those shareholders as well as to these fire victims. The fire victims would come to own at least 1/5 of that new holding company. So more than 20% of the new PG&E would be owned by these fire victims. The idea is the fund would then sell that to help fund the payments to these fire victims. And again, it could gain or lose value, this stock could. So it's a bit of a gamble. If PG&E has a really bad fire season next year and all of a sudden has to go bankrupt again, let's say worst case scenario, this stock could be practically worthless, which would mean all they have is this left in the hand. Likewise, could go up if PG&E cleans the ship. There are next steps in this deal. The governor has until Friday. He's written into this plan to say that he doesn't like it, that it won't comply with the state law. If he doesn't say that, then things move forward to the victims vote. So the victims will actually vote. There are more than 60,000 people involved here. They get a vote on whether they like this plan. Then the judge in the bankruptcy case would have to approve it. And then so would the California Public Utilities Commission, which is fascinating because the PUC is also trying to decide whether PG&E should even keep its monopoly. Everything about this plan I just told you assumes that PG&E will stay the monopoly for the 16 million people who rely on it for electricity. Now, this deal came on the very same week we got our first look at this, the broken hook that's blamed for starting the Camp Fire. Investigators with the PUC say that the part was worn down over the years, should have been found during inspections, and it's part of why they popped PG&E for 12 different safety violations for causing the Camp Fire. So the bad news for the company keeps coming, and yet the bankruptcy court and the governor's office both want to get PG&E out of bankruptcy by the end of June. That is the deadline that the new state law signed by the governor gives utilities in order to access a safety net fund so they can help pay for the cost of any future fires that they start. And this deal depends on that law the governor signed in order to keep PG&E a viable business going forward, which again is how they plan to get paid. The stock's not worth anything unless the company can stay a viable business.
Of course, the other question is, how much money do we think a victim is actually going to get from this deal?
Everything I just told you is about the lawyers trying to negotiate the best top dollar amount that they can for these fire victims. They have not gotten down to the details yet of what is a death in the Camp Fire worth versus the pain and suffering of losing your home in one of the wine country fires. It's all going to depend on how much money they have in that trust fund at the end of it when they eventually sell the stock.
It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Thank you, Brandon.
If it's approved.
Yeah, that's true.